Hello guys, I'm starting this session. We're doing a session on how to extend CAT prep into GMAT prep. We're going to have some fun as ever. I'm going to spend about 25 seconds just getting the tech ready so that you can hear us very clearly, and I know that you can hear us. So I'm going to ask my colleague to speak something, say hi, hello.
Hi guys, this is Baskar here. Can you hear both of us?
I hope you can hear both of us. If you can't hear for some reason, now is the time to type in there and say, hey, this is not working. Something is going wrong somewhere. So we can fix it. Fine. And since we've not heard that something is wrong, I'm going to go ahead and start speaking. I'm going to give you a broad outline on what we plan to achieve in this session. And then I'm going to say how we're going to go about it. And so quite a few students of our students do extensive CAT preparation. They want to have a shot at GMAT as well. Want to know whether GMAT materially changes their chances of doing an MBA, whether it is something meaningful, whether it is not expensive. There's lots of uncertainty over GMAT. We're trying to say what is GMAT all about? That's one aim. The second thing, more actionable, clearer, is if I've already mustered my gut preparing for CAT, what do I need to do to plug in GMAT as well? And so I'm Rajesh, so I run IIM. So I handle largely with CAT preparation, although I've done a bunch of classes and sessions for GMAT as well. And my colleague Baskar.
Yeah, hi guys.
Baskar has taken CAT a bunch of times. He's coached for CAT for many years. He runs a GMAT program with Wisacco. And so, funny story, the parent company is called Ascent Education. So I was goofing off after my MBA and I had nothing to do. So I knocked on a bunch of doors and said, look, I like teaching. I want to train students for CAT. And so only one guy took me up on that offer, just Baskar. So I always keep telling him that I was his primary part-time faculty and his first part-time faculty as well. I don't think he was really looking out for one. So since I was such a pain in the neck, he said, okay, why don't you go take some classes? And that's how I started teaching. I loved it.
The only advice I had for him, I think you guys would also have for it, like speak slowly. And even then, this guy used to be talking at like some 300 words per minute, and like I had to tell him, hey, cool down. Let me follow what you're saying. That's what was the case. We'll get started seriously with the session.
Super. I'm going to start with the first question, which is, what is GMAT all about? How is it different from CAT? And so we're going to get to the more detailed look. How do I get a V36 and a Q50 and all that later on? But what is GMAT all about? And so Baskar been running a GMAT course for years. So I'm going to step aside and say, look, have a go at this one.
Right. Basically, GMAT has got 4 sections. Right. Let's look at it. It's not necessarily in this order that you'll be taking the examination. The first one is the quant section. Why I'm starting with quant is a lot of us who prepare for the CAT will always have quant as the first thing in our mind. We'll actually be focusing on quant so much that you guys would want to know how much of quant is there. There is substantial amount of quant. Right. 31 questions in quant which you need to answer in 62 minutes. That's a quant section. A verbal section. What is tested in the CAT quant is more or less the same that is tested in the GMAT quant 2. We'll come to that part later. Right? Second is the verbal section. You have to answer 36 questions in 65 minutes. Verbal basically comprises 3 parts to it. One is sentence correction. Second is reading comprehension. And third is critical reasoning. We'll look at all of these in a while, what each of these things mean. So there's a lot of commonality, at least the reading comprehension and the sentence correction part, which is common between the CAT and the GMAT. There are 2 more sections. One is called the integrated reasoning. To a large extent, this IR is a watered down version of what you're doing in DILR. Especially the recent DILR of CAT is like, I would say, head over shoulders tougher than what you would see in the IR. IR is a watered down version. And lastly, what you do for WAT when it comes to the CAT. Once you cleared the CAT, you do a written analysis test. The equivalent of that, but it is a lot more structured here. It's not something like a prof from IIM Ahmedabad comes out and says, hey, here is a topic and you guys work on it or something like that. This is more structured. They'll give you an argument and you need to basically critique that argument. So essentially, it's got 4 components. One is quant, second is verbal, third is IR, which is a watered down version of DILR. And lastly, you have an essay to be written, which is AWA. Right? You can take it in multiple orders. There are 3 possibilities in which you can take. I'm just walking you through some structure so you know what is in store for you. You can start the examination with the AWA, which is the essay component. Go on to IR, take an optional 8-minute break, move on to quant, take an optional 8-minute break, and end it with verbal. Conversely, they've introduced these new changes, which lets you take the quant first, move to verbal next, and then complete with IR AWA. Or do the verbal first, quant next, and complete it with IR AWA. So this is the structure of the paper. How long does it take? In total, it's 3 hours and 7 minutes. So it's more or less the same kind of timeline that we look at for CAT. That is what we are looking for GMAT as well. So this is the structure of the GMAT, what is tested, the sections, and what you need to know.
A couple of things to add on this. The score out of 800 is pretty much from your quant and verbal. So there's a separate score for IR, there's a separate score for AWA. So IR and AWA don't contribute to your 800 score. And so
the GMAT score is on a scale of 200 to 800, of which it goes in multiples of 10. And that, as he says, is a function of what you do in quant, what you do in verbal. IR and AWA are standalone. It's like your W80 score does not come into your percentile when it comes to the CAT. The same thing happens with GMAT too.
Right. And the second thing, how the GMAT is different from the CAT is the GMAT paper is adaptive. And it's a brilliant twist. So I'm going to step aside and then let Baskar have a go at what adaptive means.
It's very simple. It adapts to your competence level. That's essentially what this adaptive is all about. Right? Let's say I'm going to simplify this algorithm. Question number 1, you answer. If you answer this question right, the next question number 2 that's shown to you will be of a higher level of difficulty. I'm simplifying the algorithm extremely. If you get question number 1 incorrect, then the second question is going to be an easier question. What is the catch? Tougher questions fetch you more points. Easier questions fetch you lesser points. So it adapts to your competence level. And the test actually adjusts quite beautifully. These guys have done a brilliant job about the engine, the software that they got. Like at the 10th question, it kind of gauges where you stand and starts giving you questions at that level, and then finally gives you a score as to how well you have done. So that's the adaptive one. It's adaptive at a question level. It's an examination GRE, which all of you know. GRE is adaptive at the section level. I'm just giving you this difference. We are not going to delve into that at all. That's not the scope of our talk.
The adaptive engine is brilliant. And so I've often been peeved with the CAT for not being detailed. So the CAT is brilliant for getting the top 3%. But how much of a distinction is there between an 84th percentile and a 68th percentile? We don't know. The CAT was built originally to select the top 1,500, 2,000. Then it became an exam for hundreds of colleges. So the detail at the GMAT lets you keep a magnifying glass at each percentile level. So GMAT practically says, okay, I've seen you for 15 questions. You seem to be between 80th and 90th percentile. Now let me see whether you're closer to 88 or to 82. So that detail comes because of the strength of the adaptive engine, and that's brilliant. I've seen a couple of questions out there. Do we need a really good profile to get a call from a good college with respect to GMAT? See, it is not very different from the CAT. CAT also takes care of your academics and work experience a lot. The one thing that is particularly different is how you frame your application when it comes to GMAT. The kind of essays you write, the kind of story you have, the pitch you can make for yourself. The GMAT basically says, hey, you've got a decent GMAT score, you've got good enough score for me to have a look at you. You seem to have good acads. Now tell me something about yourself, with a series of essays, and they take those essays very seriously. So the advantage you have with your GMAT is you get to tell your story once you've crossed the step 1 of getting a decent GMAT score and having a good profile. So that's a compellingly different factor compared to CAT vis-a-vis the admission process. But otherwise, profile-wise, the GMAT you can apply to 150 colleges. If you want to get into Harvard, Wharton, Stanford, you need to have an extraordinarily good profile. But if you're going to go for the 75th college, then you need to have a decent mix, but it's probably not as taxing as Wharton or Harvard.
So I'll just basically get into what Rajesh talked about, the profile aspect of it, right? To a large extent, keep one thing in mind. You can't go back and change what you have done in the past. Can you change your school scores? Can you change your college scores? Can you suddenly become the school people leader? Or can you become the college president of your union? You can't do any of those things. You can't, if you're working for a TCS or CTS, can you change that? You can't. With 2 years of experience, can you suddenly become the vice president of TCS? Certainly not, right? All that is not possible. So what are we talking about profile? People who are going to be applying to any of these schools are typically going to have anything from 2 to 5 years experience. Where how you write the essay comes into picture is what Rajesh told you. That's a key point that you need to keep in mind. You might be working for TCS and you might be doing a DB2 or a CACS coding. I don't know whether that still exists. It used to exist way back in 1990s, right? But if you're still into it, how you write it, you can say that, like, we might be telling to our friends, hey, daily I go and see this black screen draw. You can write that. Or you can go ahead and say that, like, I manage a team of 4 people. I have basically interned 4 people and got them to do things better, right? You can make your profile sound that much better.
Correct.
You can go and change things overnight.
I hear so many CAT students saying, look, my numbers are not reflective of what I'm about. I'm not just a 72 and a 65 and a 7.3. I'm not just a guy with a 2-year experience along with 1.5 lakh people. If that is the case and you have a compelling story to tell, then you get a good score. Then you have your opportunity to outline a bunch of stuff about you which go way beyond your CV. That is something that your GMAT application gives you, which CAT doesn't. And that's one way it is different.
I'd like to highlight one very important pointer. Leaving schools such as the Harvard, Wharton, leave those HSKW, the top 10, including Chicago, leave those guys out. The moment you step outside of it, look at their admission ratio, in sense, if I can put it this way, the number of people who apply to the number of people who get admitted. It ranges anything from 20 to 40%. What does it mean? If 100 people apply to the school, 20 of them get admitted to it. If 100 people apply to the school, then 40 of them get admitted. Let's twist it and look at it. For every seat, they get 5 times as many applications in the best case scenario from the school's point of view, and 2.5 applications for every student admitted. So school has just got, let's say, 150 seats. If it's 2.5, the factor, multiply 150 with 2.5, it becomes 375. 375 applications they are going to read. No IIM prof will be able to look at 189,000 applications. It's impossible.
I was thinking about this very point. The admission selection ratio for IIM Kashipur will be 1 in 1 lakh, 1 in 1,000, because there is a seat capacity of 100, probably 1 lakh of people apply. All you need to do is click a box. So for Indian colleges, that's an anomalous figure. So forget about that. But the applicant to conversion ratio is so juicy that if you have a good story to say, and you can stand your own in an interview and you get a 700, you have a shot at this.
And because they get only so many applications, they'll do justice. They'll definitely read. I'm not saying that because it's 1:2.5, you're definitely going to get an admit or anything. But if you write a compelling story, if you have a decent enough GMAT, obviously the next question is going to be, what is a decent enough GMAT? Easy answer is it depends. But for, let's say, an Indian IT male with 2 years of experience, right, that number is going to be somewhere around 680 plus to get into some college. And a very good score would be something like 740 plus.
I'm having a look at a bunch of questions. 2 very common questions is one is about work experience. How much work experience should you have to have a shot at it? For global colleges, especially the American ones, 2.5 plus and it becomes meaningful. 3, 3.5, 4, really good. And Europe is slightly higher, especially if you're going for the 1-year MBA. The other question I'm seeing quite frequently on the screen is MIM. Who can apply for the MIM? What is the eligibility and how you should go about it? And again, I'm going to step aside because I've not done too much research on MIM.
We'll start with the MBA itself. The 2.5 plus is reasonably good. Quite a lot of people make it. The sweet spot for a lot of US business schools is between 4 to 7 years. If you're over 7 years, then they tend to push you to their 1-year MBA, and that's not usually the flagship program. And it's better if you go to the US to have a 2-year stay in a school. It helps you build that network. Unlike in India, right? We have in India this usual thing that we say, a truckload company has come down, right? Typically, your software companies, when they come there, they'll bring trucks. They'll probably order trucks with I think Mercedes-Benz these days because they have so much more money. Earlier, it used to be Ashok Leylands. They used to get buses and recruit people, at least not in the recent years. Till about 2014, they used to be doing that. Such recruitment does not happen in the US. You network, you basically find a job by basically how many people you know. You attend job fairs. That's how it goes about it. If you cram yourself into a 1-year program, then you don't have enough room to actually go on network. So look for a 2-year program. For a 2-year program, 4 to 7 years is a sweet spot. Now, having said that, let's move on to something which is the MIM programs that we are talking about. Correct. That's MIM is for freshers, right? It started in the Europe. Primarily, they basically did not want to leave out the juicy audience available in India and China, right? Indians and Chinese, we have this usual thing saying that study, 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 and then work. In Europe and US, people will do something and then they'll go on to music, they'll do some things, and then they'll come back after 7 years to do their graduation. That doesn't happen in India. In our place, they'll say, have you studied? Have you got a job? Now get married and move on. And like that kind of stuff is what the Indian culture used to be, at least. So they didn't want to miss out on people, asking them to wait for 3 to 4 years to do an MBA. So they invented a program called MIM for this. So it admits freshers. In fact, there are schools which explicitly state that if you have more than 13 months of experience, 15 months of experience, do not apply to our MIM program. So this is tailor-made for people who are fresh out of colleges. Right? 1 or 2 schools have this restriction of greater than 1 year don't apply, but a good majority of them admit people up to about 2 to 3 years of experience. So if you're just out of college, in final year of college, you can take the GMAT and take a good shot at these programs. Especially in the US, these programs get named as MS in Management, MS in Finance, MS in Accounting. The new kid in the block, which actually is doing very, very well in the US, especially for those of you who have a little bit of a quant bent of mind, is the MBAN as they call it, or MS in Analytics. It's a brilliant program. For a lot of schools, I realized that the GMAT score for the MBA program in quite a few cases, for example, Purdue University is a brilliant school, Cranard Business School. The MBA program has an average GMAT score of about 630 or 640. The same thing for their business analytics program is of the order of 670 to 680. The average starting salary for freshers who are doing MS in analytics typically works out to anything from $85,000 to $90,000. Compare so very favorably with $110,000, which is what you'll get post an MBA from a business school. And that too, after 4 years of experience, you've clocked 4 years here, you're doing a 2-year program, and then you're taking a shot possibly at $110,000. Here for an MBAN program or MS in Analytics, they're able to get it as a fresher, just out of college, go there. The next year, the way we used to do it while we were back there in engineering, 90s, good lot of my classmates, they used to write the GRE, lock, stock, barrel, guys used to get, as in migrate to US. The same thing can happen with this analytics program, and it pays you very, very well.
Even with the MIM program, the thing I've noticed is the MIM graduates, when they join their careers, join in, say, the finance industry or the consulting industry, they start like half a step below where the MBA grads might join. So in the category in banks is you join as a research associate, become an associate, then a vice president, etc., etc., etc. The MIM grad would join as a research associate. The MBA might join as an associate. The typical path is the research associate spend 2 more years and then becomes an associate. So MBA with 3 years experience and a 2-year MBA will end up with an associate figure. An MIM candidate with 0 experience and a 1-year MIM can get 2 more years and then become an associate with 2 additional years of industry experience and therefore better off. So frequently the MIM is a better option than the MBA if you do it from a good college and get into a good industry at the end of it. And so putting a bunch of questions on, I saw a couple of questions on if I finished my MBA from old IIM, what should I do? And this is a very common question to the second MBA. And so the second MBA has to be very meaningful. So if you're finished from IIM, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, quite a few people go on and do another MBA after say 3 years experience. Then you definitely have got to do it from the top 6, top 7, tops, top 10, not outside of that. And so the better your profile is, the more limited your options are. It seems like a nonsensical thing to say. You'll have better options for joining. You will not want to join there. And so you will have to, from here, you need to get something that gives you a step up from that point. That will happen in a narrow set of colleges. So keep that in mind. But quite a few people have found that still compelling. And MBA is, in one way, a ticket to a particular kind of job pool, particular kind of job market. MBA from IIM Bangalore or IIM Calcutta or IIM Ahmedabad, and you're working in one particular geography, in particular domain. And then you do another MBA from Stanford, and then you get access to a different geography, different domain. If that geography domain is what appeals to you, you should go for it. Right. Getting a few other questions saying, with old IIMs and poor acads, not doing that, but I'm just going to touch that. Poor acads, they're abysmal, then you have no chance. But they're iffy, and you can offset it with a great CAT score, then that's a possibility. It depends on individual numbers, but if you've got an 85 in 10th, 88 in 12th, and 72 in UG, you can still get into pretty much any IIM as long as you get a kick-ass CAT score. Right? Does it matter for GMAT? Definitely it matters. People don't think that GMAT is a place where you write an easy exam and then go do an MBA from a random college because they're willing to give you the seat. Their criteria are brilliant. Their exam is very nice. They have more experience. They are more standardized. They give you a lot of chances to tell your story clearly and in order to make a sound pitch for yourself. They give you that opportunity. So don't have this attitude of, look, CAT is not working for me, I'll definitely crack GMAT. That doesn't work. So I want to stress on that. I'm going to hand over to Baskar to have a go at why GMAT is not one easier exam than CAT.
It's a different examination. What it tests, for example, see, I've written the CAT, right? And I graduated from IIM Calcutta. So I know the examination and I know GMAT because I've written GMAT, I teach for GMAT. So many times people think that if you have done well in CAT, you should necessarily be doing well in the GMAT. That is not true. Having done CAT, do you have an advantage when it comes to preparing for the GMAT? Certainly yes. So have this perspective in mind. It's like, if I can take an analogy, let's say I run a full marathon. I don't, right? If I run a full marathon and I can like do 42 kilometers, that immediately does not qualify me to do very well in a 1500-meter race, right? Now, the point is, if you're preparing for a 1500-meter race, you need to prepare for a 1500-meter race. You can't be preparing for a marathon and do justice to it. The core of what is tested, right? The quant topics, arithmetic, algebra, geometry, your permutation, all of these are exactly the same between the two. So the basics that you have learned in the CAT preparation is going to come very, very useful. So that to a large extent accounts for 70% of what we put into any preparation. Now comes the difference. Once you've gone past the 70% intersection set, how do you make a difference between the GMAT and the CAT? Right? CAT to a large extent tests hardcore math, as in the sense like hardcore quant. It will ask you things to find a solution, get to the answer. Sometimes it involves deep calculations. Sometimes it involves knowing more concepts. GMAT actually looks at elementary concepts, but goes in depth into it to check out whether you have understood that.
Yes.
Right. And it's not that CAT does not test it. In CAT, for example, sometimes speed might matter. Sometimes how you understand certain different, as in the width that CAT tests in quant is far more than the width that GMAT tests. But GMAT would want to know that, have you understood what the LCM is completely?
Correct.
Have you understood that if I give LCM and HCF of two numbers, the LCM of two numbers is 40 and the HCF of two numbers is 9, you should be able to say you are bluffing. I cannot have the HCF as 9 and have the LCM as 40, because like 40 is not a multiple of 9.
Correct.
That level of depth of understanding, this is what is tested.
Correct. Very often when I want to create good original content, especially for the school products that we build, I go back and have a look at the OG for GMAT. They test some freakishly simple stuff, but brilliantly. They have a wonderful way of teasing out fundamentals really well. So those of you who are saying, look, I'm a doyen in CAT quant, I'll walk in and ace the GMAT, beware. And I would not even take the GMAT quant for granted. GMAT verbal is a different ball game altogether. That is doable, good, intuitive, interesting, exciting, all of that, but not to be taken for granted. Please, not to be taken for granted. I can tell you my own story. I've stepped away. I've not really gone and taken a GMAT long time. I've kept deferring it because I feel like I'm not ready. But I'm reasonably confident I can go and take CAT at short notice and have a good crack at it. And so I have trained students for GMAT, a lot of them. I've gone through OG, I've set content, all of that I've done. But I can tell you, because I've done all that, that it's a different kettle of fish. It's something that is slightly different, and you need to have that mindset, and you need to give that respect to that question. And so I've got a couple of beautiful questions, so I'm going to share the screen and then have a go at it just to see if we can demonstrate this point really well. So those of you who are doyens in quant, I would request you to wear your quant hat and then do well in this question. I hope you know what data sufficiency is. We're going to go there, but have a go at this. I'm going to hand over to Baskar and then say if we can answer this question. We'll take maybe 4 or 5 minutes, but give it a go. Best wishes.
Right. This is just typically how this question would appear in CAT. Right. What is the value of x if x cube minus x square equals 0? It is a very, very easy question. It's not all that difficult. Most of you would have got the answer by now. Most of you would probably come up with an answer which says x is equal to 1. Right? You're probably not wrong, but the only place where you need to watch out is, if you got x is equal to 1, then you basically assume that the trivial solution that x can be equal to 0 has been ruled out. Just don't make that mistake. That's the only advice I'll have for you. So how do you typically solve something like this? You take x square as a term common from these two parts. So you'll be left with x square into x minus 1 equals 0. So x square equals 0, which means x is equal to 0, or x minus 1 equals 0, which means x equals 1. It's a very, very straightforward, simple question. We have done this, right? So this is what I would say is like the core of what you learn that's common to both CAT and the GMAT, right? This part of your comfort level comes into this 70% intersection set. So if you're good with this part, if you know that x equals 0 is one of the solutions that you should watch out for, then you've done that 70% bit. Well, let's slowly push it a little bit, right? The only thing I want to emphasize here is this is the core learning that you're doing when you're learning equations, inequations. Don't forget the 0. That's the only thing I would like to advise. Right? That's true for CAT or for GMAT. Let's push it a little bit. Let's move into inequalities territory. Take about half a minute, see if you guys can crack it. We'll come back to what values of x will satisfy this inequality. Did you guys get it? We'll just go about it the same way. Let's take x square as a term common. So you'll have x square into x minus 1 is greater than 0. I'm taking a very textbook approach. I'm not doing any shortcuts, anything. There are two numbers. Let's say this is a p and this is a q. Product of two numbers is greater than 0. Product of two numbers is going to be greater than 0 when both of them are positive or when both of them are negative. Let's evaluate for both being positive. X square is greater than 0 and x minus 1 is greater than 0. This translates to x is greater than 1. If x square is greater than 0, then we can deduce that x is greater than 0. We want both these conditions to hold good. This is when the first term is positive and the second one is also positive.
The x square part is going to work any which way.
Right, because x square has to be non-negative. So essentially, draw a number line. This is greater than 0 and it is greater than 1. Where do you see both these things working together? That's working when x is greater than 1. So for the first part, we get the value that when x is greater than 1, this inequality should hold good. Let's evaluate the second one. Do you need to evaluate it at all? The second one says both these parts should be negative. Can x square be negative for real numbers of x? That's not possible. So this is not even worth evaluating. The solution that we get is x is greater than 1. Any value of x greater than 1 will make x cubed minus x square to be greater than 0 or x cubed to be greater than x square, right? This is what it basically boils down to. A little bit more difficult. It's medium level difficulty. Anyone who is CAT ready should be able to do this, right? This is again a straightforward problem solving question that comes in the GMAT, right? In terms of a GMAT difficulty level, I'll put it somewhere around a 650 level difficulty. Basically, the GMAT crowd talks about what level of difficulty, 700 level, 650 level, 650 level. This would be a 650 level question. Now let's get into GMAT territory. Let's make this into a DS question. Don't worry too much about the choices. You'll have to figure out whether statement 1 alone is sufficient or whether statement 2 alone is sufficient. Or together the statements will give you a conclusive answer, or independently will they give, or is it not sufficient? That's what we're going to evaluate. Forget the ABCD that comes with the GMAT. Let's read the question. Is x cubed greater than x square? For those of you who are new to the DS part, let me just start with the basics. I'll invest a minute into this, which is any is question. Typically answer the question with an yes or a no. If you're able to come up with a conclusive yes or a conclusive no, you have an answer to the question. You're able to say, hey, yes, x cube is greater than x square. From this information, you have a sufficient information. But you're able to say that, no, x cube is not greater than x square. Even then, the data is sufficient. Let's start looking at statement 1 alone. It says x is greater than 0. If x is greater than 0, if that is true, can you give an answer which is a definite yes or a definite no? Have a look at it. Let's put x greater than 0. What all values can x take? I'll just pick some 3 values. X equals half, which is a possible value. X equals 1 is a possible value. X equals 2 is a possible value. Check out what happens when x equals half. X equals half. Half cube is equal to 1 by 8. Half square is equal to 1 by 4. The question is x cube greater than x square? X cube is not greater than x square. So the answer that I get is a no for this question if x is equal to half. What happens if x is equal to 1? 1 cube is 1. 1 square is 1. 1 cube is equal to 1 square. But the question is asking, is 1 cube greater than 1 square? 1 cube is not greater than 1 square. So when x is equal to 1, the answer is still a no. Let's look at the third one. X equals 2. X equals 2. X cube will become 8. X square is going to become 4. Is x cube greater than x square? Certainly yes. So if x is greater than 0, sometimes you get a no, sometimes you get a yes. So statement 1 is alone not giving you a conclusive answer. If x is greater than 0, can I deduce whether x cube is greater than x square? No, I can't. There are cases where it is a no. There are cases where it's a yes. So statement 1 alone is not sufficient. Let's look at statement 2 alone. Let's leave this alone. Statement 2 says x is less than 1. This is a little more tricky because we have to evaluate more cases here. What all could be the values of x? X could be a half because x is less than 1. X could very well be a 0. X, I'm clubbing it all to be a negative number, though I would have wanted to break it into 3 parts, but let's go with something which is simpler right now. X equals half, we evaluated it. X cube is a 1 by 8. X square is a 1 by 2. It is not, x square is a 1 by 4. It is not greater. Answer is a no. X equals 0. 0 equals 0, which means 0 is not greater than 0. The question is x cube greater than x square? The answer is still a no. The last one, negative numbers cubed will give us a negative value. negative numbers squared will give us a positive value. Is negative number greater than positive number? Certainly can never be. So the answer is still a no. So if x is less than 1, whether it's half, whether it is 0, or whether it is negative, we got a uniform no. So statement 2 alone is sufficient. Now, this is what is a transformation that is required from solving a question, which is an equation to an inequation, to getting it into a DS framework. And this DS is quite tricky. Look at this. I'm going to give you a variant of this question. This is the variant, right? Isn't this the same as the last question? Will the answer to this also be the same one?
It should be.
Should be, right? Basically, in the
X
last
cube greater
question,
than x square, if I can answer that, x cube less than x square, I should be able to answer that as well.
looks like exactly the same. Let's just go through this process. Just bear with me. Indulge me till I get the answer for this.
We shall.
Thank you. Thank you.
Seems promising.
I'm honored, right? Let's start with the first one. X is greater than 0. We'll go with the possibility. X is equal to half, x equals 1, and x equals 2. 3 values would suffice. It is 1 by 8, and this is 1 by 4. Is x cube less than x square? If this question is different, keep that in mind. It's not asking whether it is greater. The answer is yes. Right? X cube equals 1, x square equals 1. Is x cube less than x square? It is not. Answer is no. I don't even have to evaluate here.
Okay, statement 1 is not sufficient.
Statement 1 alone is not sufficient.
So far, so good. But even there, 1 was not sufficient.
Even there, 1 was not sufficient. There, 2 was sufficient. Let's check out. This is the trickier part.
So now I'm finding it weird. I don't like this build-up.
Right. This x equals half. We'll go with x equals 0, and we'll go with x is a negative number. X equals half, 1 by 8, and this is equal to 1 by 4. The answer is obviously yes, because we're answering, is x cube less than x square?
Correct.
This is a 0, this is a 0. The answer is obviously going to be no.
Okay. So statement 2 alone is not sufficient.
Is not sufficient. I kept the statements intact. I just tweaked this bit.
Okay.
And you would have probably solved in your classes with this being greater as we did earlier.
Correct.
And you would have said, hey, I've done this question. It's a repeat of what I've seen in the class. Correct. And you might mark the B and move on.
Correct.
DS is a different beast. Right. Now let's see if this doesn't mean that the statements are probably not enough. We'll combine them and check out whether it makes sense.
Okay. So greater than 0 and less than 1.
So x can only be a number such as half.
Correct.
In that case, the answer is an S.
Correct.
So in this case,
both put together, we can answer this question.
Right. By making this symbol a greater than, the answer became choice
C.
Greater than was B.
Both put together.
Both put together is, as in like it was statement 2 alone when it was greater than.
Correct.
By making it a less than, I need both the statement.
Correct. So
this level of, as in like, they'll say you have to see it with a fine, whatever.
Correct. Point taken.
So that
I think there is this one demonstration of why we should probably not underestimate the GMAT, which you probably guys should keep in mind. This is as good a demonstration as anything else. And so very often I've seen this, and thanks a lot for a classic illustration. But I've seen my CAT students walk into this with a cocky, absolute sure attitude, saying, look, I get 99 percentile in CAT quant consistently. GMAT mein kya ho sakta hai? Q51 to it is in the bag. It is not in the bag. And the GMAT exam is adaptive. So the better you do, the sooner you're going to land into the pot where you find questions of the last category in GMAT. And the really tough ones are fabulous. So there's a subtle variation. Here he said if x cube greater than x square, with x cube less than x square, with the same two statements, you're getting two different answers from a data sufficiency framework. So those of you are saying the other most common question that we have right now that I've seen, that I had seen originally, but I said, look, let me get to this after the demonstration, is if I have prepared for GMAT, what do I need to for CAT? What do I need to do for GMAT? And so very simple. You're as you said, 70% overlap in syllabus is there in the framework, in preparation pattern portions is already there. So what adjustment do you need to make? You need to make an adjustment for the data sufficiency for quant, for sure, no doubt about it.
And so, GMAT also plays a lot of emphasis on the kind of word problems that they play. See, for example, there are 31 questions in the GMAT quant. About 40% of them, 13 to 15 questions would be DS. The remaining would be PS. So PS, problem-solving question, is a typical quant question, which accounts for a large chunk of it. 60% of the questions would be of that nature. About 17, 18 questions would be of that kind. Of that, I would say 25 to 30%, about 6-7 questions would require you to decode the language and then answer it.
Correct.
That adjustment is quite critical.
Correct. There is a question and there is a nice wrapper around the question. The Indian way of learning, teaching throughout is heavily on the math end of it. And so we are very comfortable once we're dealing with the X cubes and X bar force. But GMAT weaves the context really well, brilliantly. And so deciphering the context becomes more important. So that is one thing that you need to add. So to get used to that style, and data sufficiency, you need to go to town with data sufficiency. You might be the doyen in math and get kicked out of shape in DS if you're not ready to think along those lines. So you will have to spend that time. That is quant.
Second thing, I'll just add one bit. See, this is another. See, CAT is a brilliant example. See, I've taken the CAT, I've cracked the CAT, so I know, and I have a lot of respect for CAT. But CAT also gives you some beautiful room, right? You can, correct me if I'm wrong, because we have not been doing it in the recent past. Out of the 33, 34 questions in the quant section, if you answer 25 of them right in a good year, would you be in the 99.5%?
Yeah, easily. You can pick and choose topics, you can dump whole segments, your question selection plays a role. All of those things matter. So you can leave a couple of stinkers and top the exam.
See, 33 questions, you skip 8 questions. You can choose which 25 you want to attempt. 25% of the CAT quant you can skip, and you'll be in the 99.5th percentile, right? Thereabouts. I might be off a mark here or there. But let's go with the 31 questions there in the GMAT. If you get 8 questions wrong in the GMAT quant, you would be in a Q47, and that is a 60th percentile in the quant section.
Correct.
You jolly well come out, take your credit card, spend another $250.
Correct. Right. So the bar for a good score is higher. Bar for a good score probably for a non-native audience is even higher. In the sense that the typical Indian student, I know I'm generalizing a little bit, typical Indian student to get a 700 plus has got to get Q50 or Q51. Otherwise, the climb is too steep in verbal. And so, the bar is at Q50. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely.
With Q49, you need to be flirting with genius levels in verbal for non-native testers to get to a 720. Whereas the Q50 or 51, it becomes that much easier. So if you're looking at saying, look, I need a 730, Q51 has got to be in the bag. So your quant has to be really good. You're covered a lot of ground syllabus-wise and preparation-wise and practice-wise for CAT. But you have to make that adjustment, especially for data sufficiency for the GMAT. Right? For verbal, again, you'll have to make a bunch of adjustments, particularly sentence correction, because the one thing I like about the GMAT verbal part is very well defined. In CAT, they don't tell you how many questions will be TA, what types will be there and all that. It's split almost equally between RC, CR, and SC, reading comprehension, sentence correction, critical reasoning. There are no funny surprises. The types of questions you'll get, all of them. Sentence correction, it's about, you can get to the 80th, 85th percentile in sentence correction with a rule-based understanding of English.
Absolutely.
If you want to really hit the really high notes, then you need to have a sense that, hey, this sentence looks funny, even if you don't know the rule sitting underneath that. But even if you didn't have that intuition, with properly learning the rules and gaming the system, you can get to the 80, 85th percentile for sentence correction. So the preparation scope is actually better defined for GMAT verbal. It's tougher.
CR is also pretty much the same way. You understand the core, you know what it is to identify the assumption, how to go about weakening or strengthening an argument. You will nail it. CR and ASC to a large extent, to hit the 80th percentile that he has been talking about, is very prep friendly. As in, you understand the rule, apply the rule, solve 400, 500 questions in each, and you're there. Coming back to RC, see, this is one thing which is you have to keep in mind. A third of GMAT is RC. I think half of CAT is RC.
Half of CAT, 70% of CAT is RC, CAT verbal.
Right. You guys, whichever, if you have desired to step into this test preparation domain, you have to nail RC. A lot of us either say RC is something which can take for granted, or we come back saying that RC is something which I cannot improve in a short period of time. Neither of which is true. You take concerted effort, in about 3 months' time, you'll be able to nail your RC. Read extensively, read widely, and as you read, after you've read, try and spend some 10-15 seconds grasping what you have read and recollect it. The comprehension part is very, very important. A lot of us focus on the speed of reading. Speed of reading is absolute BS. What is important is, have you grasped the thing that has been asked and are able to answer the questions right? Nail RC. The fact that you have read so many good articles, your SC and CR will also improve.
Correct. Good reading has a spillover effect on all three. And so the 70% of preparation planning for CAT or GMAT verbal is good reading, good quality reading with sufficient variety. You do that, your RC, SC, CR, all three improve. Right? Within that, you tweak a little bit and you prepare well for GMAT CR. that actually argue that helps you in the round 2 preparation for RC. You become that little bit better in eliminating choices for RC if you prepare really well for critical reasoning for GMAT. And so those are the adjustments you need to make. Getting a bunch of questions on what the scorecard from Q51, what does it mean? See, GMAT has a coding system. You get a Q something for quant and a V something for verbal. Both put together go into something out of 800 for your overall score. So do some reading on that. It's just a way of calling the score, like saying 96 percentile in quant and 98 percentile in DILR. You say Q50, V38, leading to a 720. Another question on if I cannot attempt all 31 questions, can I skip? And there's no skip in GMAT.
Yes.
If you're at question N, you will be shown N+1 only after you attempt N. There's no leaving a question and going to the next one. The paper is adaptive and you have to attempt every question. If you don't attempt one question, you will not get to see the next question. The question paper basically says, I know what your level is. You see this question. You get it right, I'll give you a tougher one. You get it wrong, I'll give you a simpler one.
And if you do not know, mark something. And if you're lucky, I'm going to give you a tougher one because you got that right.
Correct.
Otherwise, I'm going to give you an easier one because you did not anyway know it.
Correct. So there's no leaving as far as GMAT is concerned.
There's no review and comeback. That does not happen because it's question-wise adaptive.
Yeah. There's one question which is, with 57 months of experience, is it better to prepare for CAT and for 2-year MBA in India or to go for GMAT for MBA in US? One of my favorite questions because it's a very easy answer. Do both. And so if you have more than 2.5 years of experience, you're in the zone for GMAT. The GMAT score is valid for 5 years. There is no reason why you should not write the GMAT. If you're in India and you think you have decent shot at doing an MBA, you should write CAT. CAT costs $1,800 or $1,900. And so if you have 57 months of experience, you probably can afford that. And so there is no reason to not write either, anyone. In terms of your options and choices, you'll have to take that decision once you get a few admits. Till then, keep both options open. So, this works the other way around as well. I've got a bunch of GMAT students, right, who for some reason don't take CAT. I had 2 years ago, we had a spectacularly good student. We got into a good college and I told him, look, dude, why are you not writing CAT? And he wrote CAT and then he got into a good college with this CAT as well. If you're prepared for GMAT, making the adjustment for CAT is not huge either. It's one small chunk. It's an even simpler decision because the cost is ridiculously low for writing CAT. If you have to put your life on hold for 2 years, prepare and throw everything into it, that's a different ball game. Spend $1,900, you can take the CAT. I do it every year. So it's just one small thing. You go write the exam. So there is no reason to not write CAT if you're preparing for GMAT and you're going to take it. There is very little reason to not take GMAT if you're prepared for CAT and you have, say, 2.5 years experience. If you're dead sure that you're not going to do an MBA abroad, you should still think about the GMAT. There are about 10 colleges in India which select based on CAT and GMAT. There are a couple of colleges that select only based on GMAT, but there are probably 10 others which select from both, sometimes CAT, ZAT, and GMAT. So you get a shot with, it's a 3-year exam, guys. So you might be the rock star, but you can end up with a 89th percentile in CAT, which is good, but no sugar. So, and you might have a 740 in GMAT, which will get you all those calls in colleges that accept GMAT and CAT score. So why would you not take GMAT? So there are a bunch of colleges which select based on CAT, XAT, and GMAT. If you're serious about an MBA, you should write all three.
See, just quite honestly, a lot of these guys, like when they buy a cell phone, they buy a screen protector, and then they buy an insurance on top of it, and then they buy a leather cover on top of it, and they'll put it inside a bag and carry it. Right? As in, that's what we do. For a cell phone, we take so much insurance. If you have done preparation for one thing, I think you should write another examination. You should write the ZAT, you should write the GMAT, you should write all of these things and check out what opens doors for you.
Correct. Most of the students keep evaluating the cost in terms of just rupee terms or dollar terms. You've got to evaluate in terms of time spent. If you're preparing seriously for CAT, you spend 400 hours. Another 60 hours, and you can take the GMAT. Another 80 hours, and you can take the GMAT with rockstar preparation. Why will you not do that? It gives you another option at 20% extra cost. You should definitely write both exams if you've thrown a lot into preparing for one, as long as you're eligible for it and you have a shot at it. So make sure that you think about both. Don't leave one on the table. You can say, look, these are my preferred colleges. My number one option is GMAT. I'm going to write CAT also, or vice versa. But don't just leave one. That's just silly. The number of people who do the entire grind for CAT and don't even take the GMAT continues to stun me to this day, and vice versa.
And quite honestly, see, it's the exam is expensive when it comes to GMAT, no doubt at all. They're pricing it in dollar terms for whatever reason. It's still $250. That works out to 20,000 Indian rupees, give or take, depending upon the way the rupee is moving now.
Let's not get into that.
Yeah, but the fact being that you have invested so much money into your CAT preparation, your time, your energy. What is it? 400 hours of your time is something that's much more meaningful. If you just throw in another 60 to 80 hours and you can get a 740. The beauty about the way the GMAT is structured is like CAT appears on one single day. GMAT, you can have the leeway to take it before the CAT or after the CAT.
Correct.
2 months this way, 2 months that way. Choose what works for you. Get that score and keep it. It's valid for 5 years. Then, if you're still very sure that you want to go to the top 6 IIMs, give CAT 2 more attempts. Have the 740 with you. If after 2 more attempts, for some reason you do not make it, then take the GMAT and go to a school which offers you an admit with it.
Which not only lets you have the exam any time of the year, they let you keep the score for 5 years. They've rolled out the red carpet and said, why don't you do this? So there's no reason not to take that and have one more option. Right? So the other interesting question, if you're taking the CAT in November, when should you take the GMAT to open the doors in the Indian colleges? If it is for this year, then you're probably already late. In the sense that you need about 5 weeks after CAT to take the GMAT. So if you want to do it meaningfully, then you probably need to take it by Jan. And probably saying I'm going to apply for next cycle, which is still good. You'll still have your GMAT score valid for 5 years. So if you're taking CAT this year, then you should look to take GMAT in Jan or Feb, and then get it out of the way, keep the score in the bag, and then CAT next year, GMAT applying 6 months later. All those options come to play. And if you're taking GMAT, you're planning to take GMAT, it is very good to take GMAT in Jan Feb for 2 reasons. One, a bunch of things are fresh in your mind from your CAT preparation. You can bank that completely if you take GMAT in 2 months' time. Your AWA, etc., will help you in your CAT preparation. Your GMAT score, if it is good, will help you in your internship if you get into a great college in CAT. A good round of GMAT preparation will help you in your next CAT if you choose to go down that route. So there's a bunch of reasons to take GMAT in Feb if you're taking CAT in
Don't
November.
push it to beyond Feb, because by then, like everything, see, if you have a GMAT examination scheduled in Feb after the November CAT, there'll be pressure on you to keep that entire thing hot and going. Otherwise, if you think that I'm going to be taking the GMAT only in June of next year, you'll throw all the books. You'll just go gallivanting and like hope that your CAT works well for you. Don't let that happen. Strike it when it is still hot.
Correct. I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes scrolling down, up and down, to see if there are some questions that we have missed. How does ISB compare with top 6 IIMs? I graduated from one of the IIMs, right? And so did he. So you should take this with a grain of salt. Right? So ISB is a new kid in the block. Right? So, just kidding. ISB got a lot part of its timing right. So they offer a 1-year course, and so you can finish the MBA really quickly. Somebody with 4 years of experience, you're right in the territory for ISB. I'm a big fan of the 2-year MBA, especially if you have less than 2 years experience. And therefore, I think the IIMs do a damn neat job. IIMs give you a shot at the internship before your final placement. If you're not sure that you want to do marketing or finance or operations, in the IIM, you can spend a year learning about these bits and bobs, do an internship, and then take your electives. ISB just hits you. So if you don't have banker clarity, IIMs are a better option than ISB. From simple, plain vanilla, raw, tangible metrics thing, that IIM I think, offer better packages and stuff for like candidates than ISB does. But ISB is pretty much in the big mix immediately after that. Is that
Absolutely right. Absolutely. See, a couple of things to keep in mind. The IIM still offer you an option as a fresher to do an MBA, which the ISB does not offer. So if you're still in college, if you haven't got any experience at all, and you can crack the CAT, I think you should look at the IIMs. There's no doubt at all, because like you can't get into an ISB, you can get into their YLP program, but even there, you're going to be starting the MBA 2 years from now. Having said that, if you have 2+ years of experience, one thing that you get with the ISB is that you finish the program in 1 lesser year, which means you get to start working a little earlier. But ISB is also that differential that you're going to make in 1 year salary. You'll end up paying the ISB in higher fees.
correct?
So it kind of evens out.
Correct.
The peer group is more or less same, probably a little more academically oriented and like people who are like more keen on cracking an examination, which is far tougher in that sense in the IIM crowd than you would find in the ISB, because ISB guys would come with a GMAT score as one of the criteria which was used to select them, and they would have looked at profile to go for the rest of it. Correct. So that's a mixed difference is going to be slightly there, but very competitive set of people in both the places. Both peer groups are achievers in the country, so you're going to get benefit from the network.
Correct. The peer group differential is only going to be stylistic, not quality wise. So the ISB offers a sufficiently good peer group. IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Lucknow, they offer fantastic peer group. So there's not much to choose like that. If you had to put it there, at least in my mind, ABC rank a smidgen above ISB. But ISB pretty much competes with the rest of them.
See, yes, no? We'll leave our numbers. If you get both those admissions, just give us a call. We will talk to you. Like, that's something which we'll definitely do. Someone has a call from ABC or any one of those three and ISB, we'll have a chat with you.
Okay. I'm going to again scroll for this. My percentile in CAT 2016 was 99.99. The overall percentile was 99.76. Converted a bunch of colleges. How could I use this in GMAT preparation? So your knowledge comes of use, not your score. If you've got this greater score, you're really good. Your RC is good. Therefore, your sentence correction and critical reasoning will just require a couple of tweaks. Your quant is good, so make an adjustment for DS.
One sec. Where does he want to do the GMAT?
So he probably want to do a second MBA.
Right. Like it's too early to even think about it. No, see, if he gets into, let's say, in campus, if he makes it to McKinsey, if he makes it to one of those I banks,
then you don't need a second.
You don't need to have a second MBA at all.
Correct.
So why are you, essentially, you should have done it the moment you finished your CAT. In that case, you could have at least capitalized on the fact that you are using a preparation. You're doing it while you're at an IIM. Do justice to your grades at IIMs and like get a good job first. And then this probably is not needed.
Correct. So the access your GMAT MBA or your global MBA might give, maybe your CAT can give, CAT MBA or Indian MBA can give. So if it does not give, then give it a shot. Otherwise, it's too early to think about it. Someone's taking the GMAT on 5th December. What adjustment you should make? Take a bunch of GMAT. 10 days is too short to redefine strategy. So learn what DS is about if you don't know that already. Cover the question templates and types so that you're on top of detail. Take a bunch of mock GMAT exams. You're good to go. In 10 days, you can't overhaul things. So make the small tweaks and mental adjustments and then aggressively take mocks so that you get used to the exam type. But otherwise, nothing more drastic than that.
And quite honestly, if there is scope for you, if you do not have a deadline to catch, and if you're not taken too many, if you've taken the mock GMATs already, I think you're ready to go. But if you're thinking about the mock GMATs only after your CAT, I would go to the extent of telling you that, see if you can postpone your examination. Because do justice to the test, which is very, very important. Because the score is going to stay on record for 5 years if you accept it.
Another favorite question. Is it not good to first prepare for CAT exam and then after giving it, take drop for GMAT? Very easy answer. Anytime somebody says, I want to take drop, I'll say no. If you're getting dropped in the next restaurant, go. If you're taking a year off to prepare for an exam, unless it is an exam to become the Prime Minister of India, don't. It's not worth it. There is no exam for doing an MBA that is worth putting 12 months of your life on hold and preparing for. The competitive exams don't need that kind of rigor. The exam scores are not that crucial. And the payoffs are too bad. The stress is high. And you're spending 8 hours, 10 hours a day continuously preparing for an exam which has uncertain outcomes. And it is but one metric in a bunch of other factors. Is absurd. Any kind of risk analysis you do, taking time off to prepare for an entrance exam, which is CAT, GMAT, GRE, TOEFL, whatever else you can come up with, it is not worth your while. Maybe for your UPSC, some justification can be drawn, but for the rest, there is no justification. If you have a job, stick onto it, hold on to it, and you can see a gigantic, reasonable sized global recession coming. Jobs are good things. There are great many people without jobs would give their left arm to have your job. And so don't be flippant about a job. It's just crazy. So don't quit and prepare for any of these exams.
You don't need, as you're right about it. As in, like, all of us were, as in, he was in college. I was working in Bombay and I did my CAT and cleared CAT. So you don't need to do that. Couple of things. I found Jitin mentioning that he wanted to apply for ISB this year. Then you need to write it. You need to catch the deadline. Do about at least 3 to 4 mocks and analyze it as well as you can to make that adjustment between CAT and GMAT.
The one other question I'm saying is there any ideal time to take the GMAT? See, you have to trade off two things. One is to scramble to catch a deadline. Other is make sure you do justice to your attempt. And so this year, you want to start an MBA in 2019, June, July, August, then you're already scrambling to catch a bunch of deadlines. You're probably going to miss a bunch of them because we're in October. If you're taking CAT seriously, then you're sitting here saying the very important set of exams 6 weeks from now. You're going to start thinking about GMAT post that. So you can find the odd college where the deadline is still there. I think Singapore deadlines are only in March. So you can say, look, hey, I'll have a go at that. But otherwise, you're pretty much saying, look, I've taken CAT this year. I'm going to take GMAT to have one more option. And maybe if things don't go fantastically, I'm going to take CAT one more time in 2019. If that is the route you're going, then take GMAT reasonably quickly. If you've already covered this, ideal time would be Feb, around about that time.
If you do it in Feb, you still have few colleges in the US that you can catch, but that's not a great idea to do that. So quite honestly, keep this in mind. I graduated from IIM Calcutta in 94. I'm 48 right now. And Rajesh is... No, we're not going to talk his age, right? Okay. So when you look back from where I am or where Rajesh is right now, it is much younger to me. Let's keep that in mind, right? So it really doesn't matter whether you started your MBA in 2019 or 2020. What actually matters is the fact that where you did that MBA from. Most of us think that we should necessarily get into the B school this year. Yes, if you had planned earlier and taken the GMAT sometime in July or August or as late as even September, you had a good shot at all those colleges and also had a shot at the CAT. But with planning for an examination by Jan end or like February first week, the good colleges would have all exhausted most of their admission by that time. You'll be catching round 3, which most of them would not even want you to do. Correct. Singapore is the only option that will be left for you, and Indian schools are anyway close by then.
So if you have the bandwidth and you can still do justice, do that, but don't scramble and take the exam. One other more generic question is how do you prepare in general for aptitude exams? Couple of things. There's no one way. One, I would say, as much as possible, prepare from fundamentals, from basics. Don't go down this gimmicky shortcut based rules. It's not worth it for any exam, be it bank exam, GATE, CAT, GRE, GMAT, TANSET, TOEFL, it doesn't matter. Take that time out and learn stuff from scratch. It really helps. Get some amount of drill in with a sense of joy. You're preparing for a competitive exam. I know that is stressful, but you're getting your brain cells tested by pushing yourself on a little bit of aptitude testing. It's not the worst thing to do. And so don't prepare with this feeling of, oh, I'm made to do these so many questions on pipe systems. What role is it going to play in my life? Don't do that. It's some fun. So don't add that stress.
Yeah, I know, guys. I know.
Many of us were on interesting point. Yeah, that's another way of thinking about it. So I'm going to sidestep that one.
I want to apply for ISB, I suppose. That's what he has mentioned next year. So what would be an ideal time to give GMAT? I'm preparing for CAT right now. Take the GMAT by February, as in like, don't delay it any further because you need to get the value out of your CAT preparation. Delaying it any further is not going to help you. Jitin says, I have more than 5 years of experience. Would you say an Indian executive program is more suitable or an MBA from abroad, say Canada? See, the crucial question for that is, where do you want to look at your career? As in like, do you want it to be India-centric or are you looking for an international career? If it is India-centric, then take a shot at the Indian executive programs. Even there, 5 is the minimum cutoff, right?
Correct.
Something like 7 to 9 would be the sweet spot for the PGPX programs offered by ABC, LI, and all of those things.
Correct.
So at 5, you are a little too early to get into that program. Whereas for a Canadian MBA, you would be in the sweet spot. If for some reason, right, your family circumstances or you love India, you don't want to move out of India, that be the case. Or I've had people who teach for us, and these guys have done so well from so many business schools. The only reason they are teaching with us is because they wanted to be in South Mada Street in Mylapore. So if you're one of those guys, then basically an IIM would be a better bet for you. But if you're open to places which could give you career opportunities, or if you're looking at places where you want a job which is like global kind of a job scenario, then a Canadian MBA will serve your purpose better than this PGPX program.
Once again, for as far as your GMAT preparation is concerned, you can be agnostic to that question. If you're not really sure, take the GMAT. Even for your executive MBA, the GMAT score is valid for 3 years. So you have options both ways. as long as you get a good GMAT score. Sometimes you end up putting the cart before the horse. You're doing all your evaluation. You have a good shot at both of these. If you have a 720, take that 720, put in the bag, keep doing your research and see which way the wind blows. You might be agnostic or not indifferent to this right now. Maybe you don't know all the variables. Any which way GMAT score is important. Get that, have it in the bag, and then say, do you want to do it in India or Canada? So don't let the GMAT preparation or GMAT taking suffer because you don't have sufficient clarity on options beyond that.
I'll take this question from Tanvir Shahi. What kind of experience is required to take the GMAT? You don't need any experience. I think if you have an Indian passport, you're ready to take it. Right? I presume you're asking what kind of experience is required if you have to apply with a GMAT score. We covered it. There are different programs which expect different kind of experience. We can start as a fresher. You can apply to schools in India, places like XIM Bhubaneswar, SP Jain, IMI, IMT, 4 Business School, Goa Institute of Management. Quite a few very good business schools accept GMAT for Indians. Indian passport holders, not NRIs, not foreign passport holders. Using the GMAT, they admit them. Right? You can apply for MIM programs outside India, in Europe, US, Canada, all these places. If you have 3 to 5 years, 6 years experience, obviously, lot many more MBAs open up for you. If you have over 5 years of experience, the Indian PGP programs also open up for you.
And does internship count as experience? In most cases, no. When full-time, paid, post, after graduation. Those are the criteria. So part-time job doesn't count.
Especially articleship of any of your CA, CS, all of those things do not count.
They don't count. It has to be full-time. It has to be paid. It has to be formal. So make sure that you tick those boxes for it to be counted as experience. A while ago, the question was, I have tech experience. Does it really count for an MBA degree? In most cases, it does. Good job, good role. It comes. You all want to do an MBA. There's no reason to have had managerial experience before doing an MBA. So don't say you need managerial experience before doing an MBA, but the better quality experience, good firm, good role, nice understanding of what your industry is, that helps, no doubt about it. So if you're employed with Infosys, it's better than Alpha IT services in a corner in Bangalore, because I don't know Alpha, I know Infosys. So that is clear. But the better college, better role, better company, so all of those things matter. But you don't need managerial experience. You don't need experience in sales and marketing or finance or overseeing people and managing people like that. So be clear about what is required. Quality matters, but not the role in terms of managerial experience.
And also, all of us have some amount of managerial work we do in most things. How you highlight it is completely up to you.
And freshers get a good college through GMAT. If it is for MIM, you have a better chance than for MBA. MBA, you can technically still apply, but MBA, your application gets weighted. It's more meaningful if you have 2.5, 3 years. But for MIM, you're in the zone. So if you're saying, look, I'm very keen to do study abroad and get into a managerial career in some form, and I want to do it as early as possible, then the mothership is MIM, and the route to that is the GMAT.
Have a 700% GMAT. You'll get, you're in place to get admits from places like HEC Paris, St. Gallen, London Business School, quite a lot of good places. 700 plus is a good score to go there. Because the MIM program still, from an Indian applicant pool perspective, is not as popular as the MBA program. So to that extent, you're catching it early.
Correct. And probably the people start thinking about a global MBA after they have picked up 3 years, 4 years experience.
That is true for an MBA, but for an MIM, that's not the case. So don't miss out on it.
Correct. Quite a few Indian applicants do not know of the existence of the MIM option and do not know that people with 0 years experience or 12 months or 15 months are eligible to do the MIM program. You are. So if you're very keen to start on a managerial role as early as possible and with a global degree, then MIM is the mothership. And I think I'm not sure about the data on this. The MIM numbers are creeping up.
It is actually going up. Yeah, basically 2 reasons. One, they're able to get a wider applicant pool. And in terms of recruitment, companies find it a lot more easier to recruit people with an MIM because they come with 0 baggage. If you go with 4 years of IT sector background, then they have to, if you'll be looking for a fitment. So which means that you narrow down the companies that you can actually be working for. As an MIM graduate, as a fresher, the entire canvas is open to you. So it's actually, it's catching up quite a bit.
Correct. What is the 99 percentile equivalent of GMAT with respect to the CAT? 740 is 98 percentile, 750 is
99.
But somebody with 2 years experience, do you need to have a 750? See, funnily enough, if you look at the median scores of the top 10 colleges in the next 10 and the next 10, they don't drop off precipitously like how it happens in Indian colleges. The median CAT score for IIM Ahmedabad probably 99.88. And then for Bangalore, Calcutta, is in the same range. And then it falls. After that, there your Harvard median might not be dramatically more than the median of the college rank 25, because they care a lot about many factors and the way you are presenting yourself. So even with a 750 and 2 years of experience, there is no guarantee of a call from Harvard Wharton. Whereas someone with a 690 could get a call if the profile is good and the application is meaningful. And so the term profile carries a lot of things underneath it. What have you done academically? How are you working? And how are you making your case? They give you a chance to make a sound case based on your set of circumstances and factors. So grab that. So make sure you write meaningful essays and put your best foot forward with that. That is a very vital part of applying to colleges based on your GMAT score. So don't overlook that.
And I'll just add one more point. Just the profile is something that we talked. There is one very crucial aspect of applying to schools abroad that many of our students miss out. That is basically the kind of interaction you have with the school before you get an admit. Right? Schools come on basically international fairs. There's a QS MBA tour and various of these MBA tours. Make sure that you visit them. You speak to the school representatives, understand what the school is. Do a lot of reading about the school before you go there. Don't go and ask an obvious question saying that, is this school in this particular state? That would be a very dumb question to ask them. Ask wise question. Make yourself remembered for the right reasons.
Correct.
Interact with the alumni there. They have student ambassadors there with whom you can speak and get. And when you're finally going to submit your application, by that time, the admissions office should know that a Baskar, a Rajesh, a Tanveer, or someone is applying. They should know that.
Correct.
That level is possible with the US business school, with the Canadian business school. It's not possible in the Indian scenario, as we said, because an IIM prof cannot know you before you get into the place.
Correct. And in many ways, your post-MBA career is going to be like this, where you pitch a case, where you make a compelling argument for one thing. They're basically saying, look, I'm going to select you based on a similar set of criteria. So it is, in some senses, fair that you reach out, you speak, you convey, you make your case, you create a pitch for yourself, all of that. For doing an MBA, you're doing an MBA. You're not looking to do a postdoc in some niche in chemistry. So you need to be clear about what you want and create a case for yourself to get that. So there is a reason why those essays are there. And make sure that you highlight your case very well when you're given that chance. So keep that in mind.
And quite a lot of what you guys are doing right now, as in this particular session that you're attending, right? The equivalent, there are webinars conducted by a lot of these business schools. If you're applying to schools abroad, make sure that you're in the webinar. Understand who is going to present it. Just LinkedIn that person and check out what that person has done. You need to be on top of that webinar when you're there. You need to know the background. You need to know what is happening. You need to know about the school. Have 3 very good questions that you can ask and participate in it meaningfully, that they remember your name.
And everything is a signal. They're looking for a signal that you're keen, intelligent, inquisitive, and interested in joining them. All of these things matter. Right? So, if you're not sure about my performance, should I take a drop? No, you don't take a drop. Done. We've done that many times. Anytime, any question is any variant of should I take a drop? Answer now and forever is no. Right?
SP Jain versus ISB for 2 to 3 years of experience. ISB, I think, is definitely better than SP Jain in terms of how the kind of profile and everything that goes with it.
And other than Canada, which countries are employee friendly? Making an assumption that Canada is employee friendly, they probably are. I've heard good things about the US. And notwithstanding all the stories we listen to about Mr. Trump and how the place is changing and all that, the US is a fantastic place to go and work. UK is very good. So New Zealand and Australia are considered good, but they're smaller economies. The large economies, US is compellingly good if you take all things into account. A mild recession and not like the whole place will disappear. There are multiple legs to that economy. It's well integrated. It has a legacy of immigrants coming in. So the US is the mothership. Right?
And give or take, especially in terms of availability of funds for students to do an MBA, for an MBA program, if you hit that 740 plus, there's a good chance that at least 3 or 4 schools are going to give you some form of tuition fee waiver and some assistantship, which essentially brings down the cost and makes it comparable with what you'll be paying for an ISB or an IIM.
Quite often, it's even better than that. We've had students who've done their MBA in the US practically free.
No, have had more money in their bank account post MBA just before getting to work.
Even better. So there, There are private colleges, there are state colleges. So the state colleges do offer assistance, and the assistance is very often meaningful. So don't miss out on these. I'm preparing for CAT and I plan to write GMAT by December end. As Indian B schools need GMAT score, any tips? Best wishes. Make an adjustment for DS. This whole session has been about that. Make an adjustment for DS. Spend more time on verbal. Take a bunch of practice GMAT. You need to make the adjustment for the style of questioning, for the adaptive format, and just go to the GMAT world from the CAT world. Take a bunch of mocks to be ready for that. But otherwise, if you're prepared well for CAT, the 5-week, 6-week window is sufficient. Don't have a cooling off period after CAT and saying, to khatam ho gaya, 2 hafte chutti leta hu and all that. If November 25, you finish exam, give yourself 4 hours. November 26, you're back on the treadmill.
3 years of experience, left Excel 6 months back to prepare for CAT. If I score well, this gap will not affect my chances, right?
If you score well, I would like to
say. You have done that. You have to justify it. And there are people who justify it. No doubt at all. Don't worry too much about it. Keep that behind you. Now focus on getting that score into CAT, that you'll be put in a situation where you'll have to justify it.
Correct. You can potentially justify it if you get a seat in the chair. Make sure you get that. Once you get that, you're in with a shout. You can say, look, you took a break. You can say you had to take a break. You can say you were laid off. And you can create a compelling reason for that. Whatever is true, pick that. I'm just answering the question for a broader set of things. I'm not saying say anything you want. But for people who have been asked to leave, there's still a good reason. Economy is more cyclical and there are no guarantees now. There are quite a few people who have been asked to leave a job for no fault of theirs. That is the case, that is the case. No shame in saying that this is what happened, such is life, and here I am. So you can explain any backdrop, but make sure you have a seat on the table before you do that, before you go there. Are there scholarships given? Yes. What are the criteria? Everything that goes into your admissions criteria pretty much is for your scholarship criteria, but your GMAT score probably plays slightly bigger role.
Absolutely. If you have, see, at the end of the day, schools also want to paint a picture that their median GMAT score is quite high, because median GMAT score is a very good proxy for what kind of students select them. So if you have a good GMAT score, there's incentive for the school to select you. But the important thing, keep in mind, look at the school's background. For example, there are schools like Arizona State University, Carey Business School. They give scholarship to everyone who joins the school, right? Penn State University had scholarship for 60% of the students who joined their school. So look at the school's history of what kind of funds are available with them, and then take a look at what you want to apply for. There are scholarships available, and usually given when you have 720 plus GMAT score, 740 is a safer number that I would go with, because if a 740 plus, other things being equal, you have a good shot at making into the scholarship. And you don't have to spend a single penny. I'm not joking. There are enough of our students who have gone there not spending a rupee.
Correct. The options are available. Don't think the door is not there. Someone with zero experience, not sure whether you want to work in India or abroad, should I give the GMAT? Definitely yes. If you're not sure, give the GMAT. What's your downside? You prepared for CAT. You spent so many hours doing it. You've given yourself a good chance with CAT. You're going to take that exam. With a small tweak here and small tweak there, you're ready for GMAT. Flip the question. Don't say, should I take the GMAT? Ask yourself, what is the reason that is preventing me from taking the GMAT? Nothing. It's $250. The cost of applying and doing an MBA is many times this.
2 lakhs. So you don't even have to step there. You're just going to be finishing this 20,000 rupees and you've done your CAT preparation. You're going to top it with probably another 5,000 to 7,000 rupee investment into converting it into a GMAT. Nothing more than that.
So, started my CAT preparations extensively into CAT preparation. Should I settle for Tier 2 college? Dude, CAT is still there. Take that decision once you get admits. I often say, don't take your April decisions in November. Don't. What's your point? Throw everything into CAT preparation till November 23, 24, 25. Do your best in the exam. Give it a shot. See where you stand in Jan. Attend whatever interviews you can line up in Feb, March. Get your admits. Then take that decision. Don't muddle yourself with a May 2019 decision variable before CAT. Not required.
A couple of things, and this is what I used to tell people. When you're preparing for CAT or GMAT or any of these examinations, prepare as if your life depended on that examination. As in, if this is the only exit route I have. Close all windows. Just have that one door. That's your door out of a place which is set on fire, right? But on the day of the examination, walk into the examination hall as if you own the place. Ha, CAT, ha, GMAT, I don't care how good I can crack this, or the outcome of this examination is of no consequence to me. Why the switch is needed? Many of us crumble under the anxiety, the pressure of wanting to do better.
Correct.
That cannot happen on the day of the test, but the pressure should be there during the preparation phase.
Correct.
So have this ability to switch from Jekyll to Hyde, or whatever as they call, right? When you're preparing, you give everything and as if it mattered. Once you've done your preparation on the day of the examination, take it easy, right? And then, as he said, take your April decision in April. Don't do it in November. Don't foreclose your option that your CAT is going to be bad when you have another 50 days to CAT.
Correct. And Imtiaz says, I had a backlog, so cleared a while later, but I do have experience. You have experience. As far as the CAT is concerned, the numbers get fed in and you get a call. And then once you are there in the interview, they're going to ask you what happened. Most professors, most interviewers are kind of forgiving of one or two mishaps. So if there's one nightmare, one semester, one exam, doesn't matter. There's a pattern of being flippant about academics, you're in trouble. I hope it's not a pattern. If it's one off, then you should get away with it. It will be a factor. An iffy academic record is a negative for admissions to B schools. That's a given. How much is it? We don't know. It's definitely a factor. But such is life. With your academic record, things didn't go well. Own up to it and then give yourself the best shot. Don't let it hold you back for your CAT and GMAT. The exams you can nail independent of your academic record. You're basically saying my academic record is not truly reflective of how great I am. Prove that. Have a score. You get a 780 in GMAT, a 99.97 in CAT. And you go in with a 99.97, then your 6.4 CGPA looks like an anomaly. You have a 93.4, you have no chance to explain why that was anomalous. And so give yourself the chance before anything else.
The question on how is the MBA from Singapore compared to the US? Singapore has some very good school. NUS is one, NTU is one, and you have INSEAD Singapore campus. These are like brilliant schools to study from. Keep one thing in mind, pretty much similar to what happens with the IIMs. From NUS and NTU also, you have a percentage of the people who will get the truly international placements. As in, you'll get an McKinsey, you'll get into Goldman Sachs. So you'll be in any part of the world. You're a talent pool, which is a global talent pool. Predominantly, the rest of the jobs is going to be Asia-centric. So if you're looking for an Asia-centric career, NUS, NTU is a great place to go to. But if you're looking at a truly global one, then unless you are in the pool of students from that place which make it, which is true for even an IIM Ahmedabad. IIM Ahmedabad, people make it to BCG, people make it to McKinsey, then they're as good as from any other place. So that difference plays. If you're in US, then from there everything starts, because that's still the mothership for anything to do with MBA or anything to do with education right now.
Next one, if I do an MBA from a top 20 B school, globally, I presume, what are my chances of getting a job there? Good chances. Top 20 is good. If you get in the top 20 in the Indian economy, you have a good shot. In the top 20 in the US economy, fantastic. Probably even better. Even with visa regulations and H1Bs and classifications and all that, top 20 is a fantastic place to start a career from. Chances are you'll get a good job and you'll have no complications with your visas. So you are in the top 20 out of their MBA grads, so the so-called better degrees, and the top few colleges there. You'll be welcomed into the economy, so you'll get a good job and be able to pay off your loans and whatever. So if you get a top 20, the payoff is more or less built in.
And one other thing, keep this in mind, the companies which recruit for international students are different from the companies which come for the domestic students, people who are native Americans, who have American citizens. The companies to recruit international students can recruit either. But there are companies that will come only to recruit people for whom they don't need to process the visa. So if a company is saying that I'm recruiting international students, those companies typically are the ones which will either have the ability to process your H1B, and if they're not able to process your H1B, they have the ability to place you in some other country and place you on a talent pool, which is a global talent pool. So keep that perspective in mind. You're not going to be left without a job if you do justice to your MBA program and network effectively.
After CAT preparation, is it possible to get a 700 plus if I take it end of April?
Certainly.
You can plan for an end of Feb timeline and still get more than 700. You should aim for a 720, 730, and that's also possible. How do I prepare with a full-time job? That's like GMAT preparation strategy. And so there's an entire YouTube channel dedicated to that, the Visa Code channel. check that out. There's a bunch of answers on Quora. How do I plan for GMAT? Here we're talking about the adjustment and what are the options and all that. How do you plan your GMAT preparation? That's a separate ball game. It's been extensively answered on the Visaco channel and on Quora. Do check that out. That'll be a better place to get this in. I'm going to wind down for the day, more or less. Many thanks.
One last question, this last bit, business analytics versus MBA.
Yep.
Right. The whole thing is, if you like analytics, go for it, because I read somewhere there are 3 million jobs in the offering in the next few years in the analytics space. Right. That's one hell of a lot of job. Obviously, that's not just for people who are graduating with an MS degree. That's across the board. You're talking about something that's like coming up in a big way.
Don't track WhatsApp feeds and give me ads on Facebook and say that's analytics. And so that's cheating. That apart, analytics could be the juiciest thing there is around. So the prospects are definitely good. Many thanks for all your questions. I had a good time because I've not done the GMAT thing for a while. I'm keen to even think about taking the GMAT.
I think you should.
Thank you. I will give it a go sooner rather than later. Once again, thanks for Baskar. This is Rajesh. I run 2IIM. Do check out our questions on the question bank there. Check out the channel. A bunch of fantastic, good quality questions sitting there. Those of you who are preparing for CAT should definitely give the question bank a go. And so a great many of our students don't go through the question bank, and I get mighty pissed. It's out there. We've taken a lot of effort. There's no reason for you to not check that out. It's silly free. Like those of you who are preparing for the GMAT, you should definitely check out the GMAT question bank, which is qn.visaco.com. The link will be available on the YouTube stream. Again, a fantastic question sitting there, especially in DS. Some of my old favorites are there. I frequently hop onto that site when I'm creating content for the school product. With the DS is absolutely fabulous. DS is one of my favorite question types. So I love that website. Any queries, questions you have, please reach out to us. You can WhatsApp questions to our WhatsApp number or ping us on YouTube, Quora, Facebook, the usual suspects.
Guys, 50 days is a lot of time to change lots of things, right? So CAT is still within your reach. Whoever is midway through your preparation, just about Saturday preparation, give everything you have, crack the CAT, and then nail the GMAT and keep it. You can decide what you want to do. Best wishes. Thanks, Rajesh, for inviting me.
Super guys. Super guys. I'm going to sign off. Have a good weekend. Enjoy yourself. We'll catch up, say, a couple of weeks from now with a bunch of other sessions.